Everybody, Danielle Hargenrader here, founder of Diabetes Dominator. Really excited today to bring you an awesome interview with my good friend Stephen Nulty, who is joining us all the way from Scotland. I'm going to read you a quick bio about Stephen, and we're going to get into all the diabetes good stuff. So Stephen Nulty has been type 1 diabetic since 1987, and he is the founder of Diabetes Mastery. The purpose of Diabetes Mastery is sharing the benefits of eating healthier, lowering blood sugars, and finding the path to optimal health. Stephen is a former soccer player. He played at college level in America and professional level in Iceland. Stephen is dedicated to finding his optimal health through nutrition, specifically with juicing, green smoothies, raw foods, and balancing the body with food. So, Stephen, thank you for joining us today. How are you?
Very well. Thanks, Daniel. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I'm so glad you could take the time to join us. We're on a bit of a time difference here, so It's a little bit later there, but what we're going to talk about today is your journey with diabetes, because as we're all doing on all these interviews, we all have journeys that we go through, you know, from beginning to where we are now. No matter how many years we've had diabetes, we all have our ups and downs, and a lot of us find that, you know, thing or that moment where we realize that diabetes is not necessarily so much of a curse as we can use it to kind of give us a blessing in the way of health. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your diabetes story, maybe from diagnosis, or how you got from where you were back in 1987 to where you are now in 2015.
Sure. Like you said, in 1987, that's when I was diagnosed, and I was 10 years old. I think when you're diagnosed when you're younger, it's definitely different from being an adult, because you're not sure you're not sure about life in general, and I didn't know what diabetes was. I'd never heard of it, and I don't think many of my family members had either. So when I was diagnosed, it was more of a shock to my family, my parents, than it was to me. Just as a young kid, all I wanted to do was go and play football, soccer, and that was it. So I actually slipped into a coma for a day. When I came out of that, lying in the hospital bed, and the doctors and nurses around saying that you're going to be diabetic and you're going to be injecting for the rest of your life, none of that really sunk in. I didn't know what it meant. All I was focusing on is, when can I get out and meet my friends again? So I think as a child you have a different perspective, certainly on life, and I did with diabetes. Excuse me. So during that period, it was definitely harder for my parents than it was for me. So I had nothing to go by other than the nurses and the doctors, so they guided me through it. I have to say I got amazing support from them. It was probably new to them as well. Type 2 diabetes was probably easier for them to deal with than type 1. So what happened during that period was I learned to count carbs from a very young age. I had a book, I forget the name of it, that was given to me by the nurses, and it was basically like a traffic light. It had green, amber and red, and the foods were in each section. The green foods were the stuff you could take as much as you want. The amber was be careful, look for your carb counting in there, and red was kind of stay away and you don't want to be going down that route. And we stuck by that, and yeah, it was good. Life was fine. I dealt with my diabetes okay. I had great support from my family and had no major issues. Also, as you know, Danielle, when you're diagnosed, there's still that honeymoon period where the body's still producing some insulin, or at least it's still affecting the sugar level, so that was also supportive. And during the next probably 7 or 8 years, I can't have any complaints. It was fine. I was eating what I wanted to eat. I was eating what all the other kids were eating. Sugar and sweets, I didn't eat as much, but because I was playing a lot of football at the time, it gave me an opportunity to get a chocolate bar, which I loved. So I probably got my fix in that sense, whereas other diabetics that are maybe not as active, the temptation is probably there a lot more to eat something sweet with maybe not burning it up afterwards. So that was my diagnosis. Right up till the age of 17, 18 was probably when I started to see it having an impact, especially on sports. And prior to that, I was dealing with it with bottles of Lucozade, against the equivalent. I don't know if you guys have got Lucozade there, it'd be like Gatorade or something,
Okay.
Powerade, that kind of stuff. So I was taking that before exercise, testing blood sugars during the game, and taking a top up if I need be. But like any sport, when you play it often enough, you can get into a zone, and you know when you're doing well. And for me, probably late teens, early 20s, I started to see that I wasn't getting into the zone quite as much. And when I tested my blood sugar, there was issues. It was either really high or really low. And you know yourself, you can't exactly do an immediate correction. It's not like, give me 5 minutes and my blood sugar will be perfect. It can take hours, sometimes days, to control that. So you have to make do with the best you can at the time. And that rose a lot of questions for me. So during my early 20s, I would go to the doctors and ask for advice and try to get help of how to deal with this situation. I get getting told the same thing. Keep doing what you're doing, lower your insulin levels before sport, take some extra carbohydrates if you want to, one of the two, to try and balance it out, and just test and measure. Now, having heard that all my life, that's fine. Excuse me. But when it's not working for you, you start to look for alternatives. I didn't have a clue that there was even alternatives. I didn't know where to look. I had no idea. I just kept doing what I was doing. And it was really problematic. And then about 2007, I went along to a Tony Robbins event and loved that. And I went there for different reasons. It was nothing to do with diabetes. I got introduced to one of their programs, the Life Mastery, where they take you on a 6-day detox. I get approached. I went there very nervously, and I got approached by one of the trainers, and I informed her that I was diabetic. And she said, "Don't worry, we've had lots of diabetics here." But me, being me, I'm thinking nobody really knows what diabetes is. I'll need to educate this woman and tell her that there's a difference between type 1 and type 2. She knew that, and credit to her. So she didn't give any advice. She basically said to me, "I'm not a doctor, I can't advise you. You do what you need to do. All I can tell you," she said to me, "Why do you take insulin?" I said, "Well, there's a number of reasons, but the main reason obviously is to control the sugar levels." And her response was, "You're not getting any sugar this week." And I went, "Oh." So that really opened my eyes, and I didn't know how to deal with that. So I went with my gut feeling, which was, I'm going to come off my insulin because I'm not getting any sugar. Why do I need insulin? And that was my thinking at the time. So I came off. I was on 2 types of insulin, Humalog for fast acting and Lantus for the background insulin. I kept my Lantus going. I kept that throughout the whole time, but I never took any fast acting insulin for 6 days, none. So the whole time I thought I had it carried with me at all times, and I thought I'm going to see what this detox is all about, go with the program. If I need insulin and my blood sugar's sky high, I have my insulin, I can take an injection and I'll deal with it. Ironically, during that 6 days, the highest it got to was 14. Now, we all struggle to convert that into what you guys have got in America.
I'll try to throw up a chart on
Yeah.
the page about the conversions, but I think 14 is a little high.
But bear in mind, we all have different tolerance levels. 14 was not high for me back then. It wasn't. I mean, my blood sugar on average prior to doing that detox was sitting between 10 and 12. So 14 was not a big difference for me to deal with at that time. So on the contrary, I slept less. I lost a little bit of weight, mainly for the fact I wasn't eating. I felt amazing. First couple of days were difficult, but by the end of the week, I was transformed, and it was absolutely incredible. I did go back to my insulin, but I found when I went back to my insulin, I cut it by at least 80%. So I was going from 14 units down to between 3 and 5 units,
Wow.
per meal. But then I wasn't eating the same. I went in there as a meat eater, and I came out as vegan stroke raw food, and I was having salads.
Yeah, I don't want to interrupt too much, but you're saying so many amazing things. So I just want to quickly recap here. So we're talking about a child going for, and it's interesting too to hear about the differences in America versus in Europe. But you're talking about a child, an athlete who went from, you know, going out and playing all this football, soccer, and you're, you know, kind of eating whatever you want and, you know, a lot of candy bars and trying to balance out. And then you come to the realization that the doctors aren't necessarily giving you the type of information that you need to kind of figure out what's working for you. So you decide to go on your own journey of exploration. And it just so happens that I actually have also gone to the same event that you have gone to, except at a completely different time in a completely different setting, where we detoxed. But you went in there with the mindset of, you know, you're not sure of what's going to happen, but you did realize that you were looking for some answers. And maybe you didn't realize that you were looking for answers regarding your diabetes control, but when you came out, you had ended up not only deciding that you weren't going to eat meat anymore, but you were going to eat a vegan or vegetarian diet, and that the effects of, basically the bottom line was that you realized that the effects of the foods that you were eating were 100% determining how you felt regarding your diabetes care. Is that a correct assessment?
Absolutely. I mean, when I went in there, okay, I'd done a detox for 6 days. It wasn't just a detox. There was an educational program there that taught you what food was all about, what it does to the body, and it wasn't specific to diabetes. It was health. And, you know, it's one of the things I learned, and I'm a firm believer of it, is there is only one disease, and that is the body is not at ease. That's that simple. The diabetes or arthritis or cancer, these are descriptive words to describe the part of the body that's not functioning properly. And when I understood that and understood what food can do, and absolutely just doing it, was the results I was getting, I wanted to keep the results, so that's what changed my diet. And I had a big reason why. A lot of people that have not got serious health conditions, and diabetes is a serious health condition, they don't fully understand. They think, I'm doing okay, and they are doing okay. It's not until you hit that point where I'm not doing okay, I need to make changes, and that's what it was for me. So yeah, I got educated that week, made dramatic changes. I came home, I got everything out my cupboard, everything out my fridge and my freezer, threw it all out, and then spent the next 2 hours in the supermarket trying to discover what an avocado looked like and what a pepper was. And I'm serious. I had no idea. I had a recipe list, and I had no idea what half the stuff on it was, because I'd eaten fast food, microwave food, ready meals. So I had to educate myself in that sense.
I think that that's amazing that that specific part of the story is that you, much like many Americans, were living on a diet that was, like you said, microwave foods that were already prepared, and what I would consider things that are actually not really food. They're kind of like food-like items, but they're actually not real food. And you took it upon yourself because you felt the benefits of what changing your diet could feel like for you, and you completely educated yourself on this. Obviously, you went to Life Mastery and you had that education, but after you came back, you know, it's easy to be healthy when you're in an environment where somebody is constantly feeding you healthy food and you don't have to put forth the effort or any type of real thought process other than just being there. But you came home and cleaned out your entire cupboard and kitchen and pantry, and then you went to the supermarket with a list of ingredients that some of which you've never even seen or heard of before, and built your new lifestyle off of that, and continue to live that way to this day. Is that correct? So this is in 2007. We're now in 2015, and you're continuing to live this way. Is that correct?
Yes and no. I went from one extreme to the other. I went from eating all the meat and foods that were readily available to go into a raw food diet, which was food that wasn't cooked over 105 degrees, and predominantly salads. Now, I bought a blender, I had smoothies, I bought a juicer and made juices, and it was incredible. It was exciting. I was learning something new. I was feeling great, but there becomes a point where it's obtainable but not sustainable, and I was persevering and I tried the hardest. And the interesting thing is, I had some challenges along there. I think it was about 3 months into it, I had a notion for some crisps, or you guys call them chips, and I went and picked up a packet of, I think it was cheese and onion, and as soon as I opened it, I nearly vomited. I didn't eat any. I couldn't. The smell of it was incredible, and I could smell the chemicals, the flavours, and I'd never witnessed that or experienced that before, and I knew something had changed, because your taste buds change, everything changes. So that gave me reassurance that what I was doing was correct. Again, it wasn't sustainable. I'm living in an environment with people that are eating out regularly, they're going out drinking alcohol, all these kind of things. And I eliminated all that for a period of time. But it starts to have an impact on your social aspect, the social life. So I had to find a balance. And then I thought, okay, I'll heat some food up and I'll stick to vegan. And I started to slowly introduce some cooked foods. But I was still learning. And where I am today is a matter of just experimenting with all different types of diets that are out there, the raw food, vegan. I've now introduced eggs. I never thought I would 7 years ago, but I now have eggs occasionally for protein. I've tried Greek yogurt and goat's yogurt a few times, and I literally a few times in the whole last 7 years, not anything more than that. I haven't quite got round to seeing. I just don't find it something I really want at the moment. But if I did, I would have no qualms about going and taking it.
I think one of the biggest takeaways here for me is that, and this is something that I teach all the time, is that exactly what you're saying is that we're always going to be on this journey of discovery. There's never going to be a doctor or even a coach like myself that's going to be able to say, here is your exact plan that you need to follow. This is exactly what you need to eat at exactly what time, because that's not realistic. We can give guidelines and doctors can give guidelines to follow, but it's up to us individually to figure out what our bodies are saying to us, what our, how our blood sugars are reacting, how our emotions are, because food directly affects how we feel emotionally, and just to kind of always be in tune with that and follow the signs that your body is telling you. That's just like you said, even, we're 8 years later, and you're obviously openly saying that you're still on this journey. You're introducing things, you're taking things away, and that's kind of the mentality that I'm always trying to promote, is that no matter whether you have diabetes or not, we're always on this journey to finding out what works best for us for our health. But when we do have diabetes, knowing that is just a bit more important, because food will affect the way that we are able to function on our day-to-day lives on a much more immediate scale than somebody who's not diabetic. So I just love the fact that you're so open to that journey that we're all on, and I think a lot of us have that mentality that boxes us in, that makes us feel trapped, where, oh, I need this solution, I need this exact solution that's going to solve everything as far as what to eat and when to eat, but that really it's up to us to find out what that is. So I love that part of your story.
It really is up to us, and it's easy to get caught up with a lot of stuff on the internet saying this is the best diet, do this and eat only that, and it's got to be vegan, it's got to be vegetarian, it's got to be the paleo diet, whatever it is. And that's why I choose the words optimal health for me, and it may be different for someone else. And I'm a firm believer of, no matter, let's say we all want to get to one destination, but we're all starting off in different places. I might need more vitamins or more iron or potassium or magnesium than other people, depending on what we've got in our body. So that can determine what types of foods we should be eating more of to get these levels up. And it's key to get blood tests done regularly, which is difficult. The doctors tend only to specifically look for certain levels. I don't know what it's like in the US, but certainly in the UK, we don't even look for vitamin C levels. That's not a request. You can request it, and the only way that in the UK you'll get your vitamin C tested as if the doctor believes you may have scurvy. And I don't know why that is, but I would like to know what my levels are, and I try to get I do get my blood tested regularly, and I get as much information as I can to see what other foods I can take to get my levels up. So it took me a long time to. I did believe that raw food and vegan diet was the best. I can't label the diet I'm on now. I don't have a label for it other than optimal health. It's what
I
works
love
for me.
that. I love that too. I don't put a label on the diet that I'm on either. It's not, there's no name for it. It's the Danielle diet, and you're on the Stephen
Exactly.
diet. You know what I mean? It's everybody has their own individual diet that's going to work best for them. And like I always say, there can be certain rules, like obviously staying away from high glycemic index carbohydrates and cakes and candies. Obviously, that's like a no-brainer. But when it comes to whether it's going to be meat or whether it's not, or whether you're going to have raw food or you're going to have cooked food, and even for you, like being a professional athlete, like, you know, going from it doesn't matter what you are or what you're planning on doing or what your everyday activities are. The whole bottom line is getting in tune with listening to the signs that your body is sending you, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, and you don't get there overnight. This is a journey, and it's constant corrections. And one of the real highlights for me during that period when I was eating a lot of raw food and even vegan food later on was I would meet vegans who were not healthy, and I couldn't understand. I was like, but if you're eating a vegan diet or even a vegetarian diet, how can you not be healthy? Then I discovered that they were still eating processed food, whether it be soya, chips.
Yeah, one time I heard something and it made me laugh was that just because you're a vegan or a vegetarian doesn't mean you're healthy, because Oreos are vegan. Oreo cookies are vegan. That doesn't mean that they're healthy. So yeah, just that all these labels that we put on things that give people the idea that that's healthy. Again,
Yeah.
you always have to do your own research and really understand what these labels mean, and if they even mean anything other than you're not eating meat, you know. So yeah, absolutely.
Exactly, and just to be clear as well, if people out there are eating meat, fine. Just understand what meat you're eating, what it's doing to the body, and feel what impact it's having. If you believe it's having a good impact, great. I choose not to eat meat because most of the meat in the UK is not organic and it's filled with chemicals. But that's not to say that that's everywhere in the world. There's parts of the world where they do have good organic meat and maybe full of nutrition. And
Well,
again,
mostly in America, that's also the case, unless meat is labeled specifically grass-fed or organic, and that is not the majority of it. That is the vast minority of it. You really have to search for it. I mean, honestly, it's available in most supermarkets, but it is more expensive. But I'm a big believer of you get what you pay for, and like you said, the majority of meat in the United States is heavily processed with chemicals, hormones, antibiotics, and things that are just absolutely detrimental to your health. So it's the same here.
so and interestingly as well, people have asked, do you miss meat? I don't, and I can sit with someone eating a steak or bacon and burgers, and it doesn't bother me one bit. And I can't say why it doesn't bother me. It just doesn't. I think it's just been so long that the body's and the mind's retrained itself that it just doesn't see it as nutrition. And that was one of the key things as well when I understood and learned was I now look at food as nutrition first and taste second. And so I'm looking, what does my body need? What can it benefit from? And I want to tie that in with tasty, nice food as well, obviously. But if I make a green drink, a green smoothie, it might not taste the best, I'll still drink it because I know it's getting full of nutrients in there that the body needs.
I'm the same way. I've retrained, and that is a retraining, and I think that's a really amazing distinction to be able to make. And not everybody is willing to make that distinction. I think everybody is capable of making that distinction, but not willing to. Is that, you know, one of the things we say here is that you should eat to live, not live to eat. You have to consider what does your body need versus what does your mind think that you want right now, because your mind is not the thing that, well, I mean, obviously what we eat affects our mind, but what we feel like we're craving is not necessarily the thing that our body actually needs, and that's just such an amazing distinction to make about how we feed ourselves, and that's just across the board. So congratulations.
No, it is, and another thing that I discovered, and you have to, as diabetics, you really need to understand sugar, and I'm still understanding it. And I've been reading a book which is just mind-blowing, and it's called Sugar Blues, and it's about the whole history of sugar and how it came about. And during some of the detoxing, I've done quite a few juicing. I've done the lemonade diet, which is also known as the Master Cleanse, and a lot of people will say that's not recommended. Yeah, maybe it's not, but as an individual, you've got to make that choice and decide for yourself. When I done the Master Cleanse, I replaced, so the Master Cleanse is organic lemons, and they use maple syrup and a little bit of cayenne pepper. So I replaced the maple syrup with molasses, and I discovered that molasses has a positive and negative effect on the blood sugar. So when I started to take that, I was amazed at how stable my blood sugars were, and I was taking large quantities of it, and it was not raising the blood sugar levels the way white cane sugar would or any other. And white cane sugar comes from molasses. Molasses is where all the nutrients are held, which may explain why I don't get spikes. Now, it's not the tastiest of sugars, but there are alternatives out there. There's a lot. The jury's probably still out on agave due to, they claim it's low glycemic, but the thing is, it's processed the exact same way as sugar. So there's a lot of, does it work, does it not? I don't take a lot of that. In fact, I haven't used it for quite some time. But I have replaced the sugars if I'm making any raw desserts with xylitol or dates. I'll make a date syrup. The dates are quite high in sugar as well, but you don't need a lot of them, or you can use raisins. But for me, they're natural, and they're in such small amounts that it's acceptable. So yeah, you don't want to be living off sweet cakes and stuff all day long, but it is good if you got that craving.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I think really for me, just, obviously Stephen and I are friends, and we actually have a series where we chat about different diabetes related things on a regular basis. But I think for me, one of the biggest takeaways from your mentality, your mindset on diabetes is that even throughout your life, you never felt like, or maybe you never allowed yourself to feel like diabetes was holding you back from being able to do or achieve anything, whether it be becoming a professional soccer player or becoming a successful, you're now in property, all that stuff, and, changing your diet and doing this. You never allowed diabetes to be the thing that you would use to say, well, I can't do this because I have diabetes, and not only are you using that not using that to hold you back, but you're using it to propel yourself forward into health, which is kind of, I think, the underlying theme here that I kind of try to pull out, is that we are thriving in our health, not, because of diabetes. Diabetes is not the reason why we're sick. It's actually the reason why we're healthier than we probably ever would have been before if we didn't have diabetes. And that's kind of what I want everybody to know. It doesn't matter how old you are, or what your background is, or what country you're from, or what your circumstances are. It's all about the mindset that you have going into thinking about diabetes. Because for me in the past, when I was going through my teenage years, I thought that diabetes was the end of my life, and I, ate really horribly, and I was 200 pounds, and I said, I'm cursed. Diabetes is, I'm something wrong with me. I'm defective, and I can't be who I want to be or do what I want to do in life because diabetes has ruined my life. But then as time went on and I changed and realized, that wasn't the case, it's like, I'm only as healthy as I am today because I'm diabetic. That's just the way it is, and I think we all have that capacity. Every single diabetic out there has that capacity to make that mentality, that mindset switch, but we have to find, the motivation or the drive to do so, and that's why I want to kind of showcase as many of us out there who are out there kind of kicking ass and not allowing diabetes to be the reason why we're not. So, kudos.
Yeah, I would say, and I've said before, that if it wasn't for my diabetes, I'd most definitely still be eating what my friends are eating, going to fast food places, and who knows, maybe my diet would have got, or some other illness would have appeared. But yeah, I had a massive driving force to change that, and I did need support and help. I didn't do this on my own.
Oh yeah.
And that's massive as well, to have that. People will challenge you all the time, but when your body's telling you this feels good, it really doesn't matter what other people say or think, and that's what kept me going. I mean, I get quite a bit of abuse from friends, not directly, but subtly, from when I would eat and everybody was ordering steaks, and I'd went from a meat eater one week to sitting with a salad the next week, and they would find that an opportunity to tease and you know, you're not a man, only men eat meat and all that kind of stuff. But when your health is, you're feeling so much better for it, you really don't care. And they accept it, and all my friends do now. If I go around for a barbecue or you know, a gathering, they always make a salad for me, always, and it's there, and it's nice that they consider that now. So we're way past they just know and accept that's the way I eat. And
yeah, and I think that that's part of the shock, you know, when people see you making changes, is that the teasing actually comes from a place of insecurity in the other person, because they know inherently that what you're doing is much healthier, but they know that they may not have the willpower or the wherewithal to do so themselves. So in order to kind of make themselves feel better about that, they will tease you or have something negative to say about it. But that's like kind of that, you got to just develop that thick skin and say, you know, either A, like you said, which is excellent, now they've adapted to you and they respect what you're doing for your health, or you drop them. And I don't say that in a way like, you know, that friends are just easily disposable, but I am of the mindset that if you're surrounding you are kind of the equivalent of the 5 people you spend the most time with, and if you're spending time with people who don't value health as a top priority, and they don't value your efforts towards improving your health as a top priority, you're always going to end up being drawn back down to their level of whatever level they're living at, and you may have to re-examine your core group of people that you hang around with, which is definitely that's a whole other topic. So yeah.
No, it's been a fantastic journey, and I'm still on it, and I will be to the day I die. And
I hope that by the time we die there's a cure, but maybe not. Who knows? I mean, there's been a cure coming for the last, you know, I've 24 years, and you know, same, more than that. So you know, I still like to have a glimmer of hope, at least maybe if not a cure, then the kind of like a closed loop system, you know, where we can have some type of artificial pancreas. And I know there's a lot of things going on as far as research, but yeah, you're right. It's better to be prepared for the long haul.
Well, it is, and if a cure came along, fantastic, and all these, yeah, there's a lot of interesting things happening in the medical world to make that happen, and let's hope that something does come sooner rather than later. But in the meantime, it's not an excuse for me anyway, to slow down and not keep going to look for that optimal health. And my diet now is not the same as it was 2 years ago, 5 years, 7, 20 years ago, and it won't be the same in another 10 years, because my exercise will change, the things the exercise I participate in changes, so there's always change. You just got to, for me anyway, embrace it and go with it.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing all that. So I always ask everybody at the end, towards the end of our interview, if you encounter diabetics that are out there watching this, what are your top 3 kind of items or tips that you would say that they could utilize to kind of gain that feeling of control, or that feeling of power, or that feeling of maybe not feeling so defeated by the disease?
Yeah, for me, the top one is just to take responsibility, and that was massive for me, because, like I say, for the early part of my years, probably the first 20 odd, as a diabetic, I'm going to the doctors and looking for solutions and getting the same answers, but I wasn't really taking responsibility. The only responsibility I took was to make sure I turned up for the appointment in time. And once you start to hear the same things and things aren't working, I didn't know there was an alternative, so I'm grateful that I found it. and that taught me to take responsibility. So that would be my first one, is just take ownership of your own life and take responsibility. Yeah. The second one, experiment. You know, try different things. Don't be scared. Yeah, just try different things that might work, and talk to other diabetics. Go on the Facebook groups and get experience from ones that, diabetics that maybe been diabetic longer. Just find out who you can connect with and try and make it better. And the third one is education. You know that we've now got an online library of information. There's really not many excuses left now to find a solution. And one of the things I learned a long time ago with the internet is the internet will only respond to what you ask it. So if you're not getting a good result or a good answer, ask a different question. You'll find a different response, and that's exactly what I done, and started to find other solutions to diabetes and to help me in my journey to optimal health.
Those are incredibly awesome tips. I can't stop smiling, because those are, I mean, at the base of it, you have to take responsibility for your own health, whether you're diabetic or not, but particularly when you are diabetic, it's up to you to figure out what you need to do to have the best results with your day-to-day life. The second one, I mean, I am just a huge proponent of support. You are not alone. There are millions of other diabetics out there, and many of us, including you and myself and all the other members of the diabetes online community, we're all out here. The reason that we're out here so actively on the online community is so that you know you're not alone. We're here to support you. Join the Facebook groups, like you said. Talk to other people who you see who are getting the results that you would like to get, so that you can maybe take some tricks or tips or, you know, different things from what they're doing. You don't have to carry this weight on your shoulders by yourself. That's why we're all out here doing this, because we want to make sure that every diabetic out there knows there is a support system, and it's up to you to jump in it, kind of get in the pool, because we're all here swimming, and we all want you to come and join us. And yeah, education, I mean, that's a never-ending thing, kind of just like the journey. Education, just constantly fantastic, awesome tips. I'm thrilled. So is there anything else that you'd like? Well, actually, I just want to add that Stephen has a website, diabetesmastery.com, and go check it out. I know that he will eventually be putting out some type of raw food recipes. I don't know when that's going to happen. No pressure, because not that I want to look at it or anything, but Stephen has developed a lot of his own recipes that I'm sure are amazing. And so just check out his website, diabetesmastery.com. And anything else you'd like to add before we finish up here?
No, the blog and the website, there's going to be stuff on there, and come and engage in it. There's going to be some recipes, and yeah, I'm not going to label it, like I said earlier on. It's not going to be raw or vegan. There's going to be some interesting recipes there, and you guys can somewhere to start. But there's loads of resources out there for them, and all we do is just amend these recipes to our own taste. I know you have a blender, Danielle, and I do as well, and I use that a lot for making soups, which is really easy to get started. So it's just starting with yourself and taking that responsibility is the first step. The education and experimenting follows on from that, but it's very hard to experiment and take it and educate yourself if you're not going to take full responsibility of your own life.
Awesome. So yeah, let's keep going out there, taking action, and hopefully we will just bring more and more diabetics kind of in here with us, so we can all thrive and flourish together and kind of just be out there dominating diabetes. So that is going to be the end of our wonderful Scottish interview. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. It's been a pleasure to talk to you, as it always is, and we will see you on the next interview. Take care, everyone.